Oh, thank you. And first, I'm Miss Angelo. Yes, ma'am. I'm not Maya. I'm 62 years old. I have lived so long and tried so hard that a young woman like you or any other you have no license to come up to me and call me by my first name. That's first. That's first. Also, because at the same time, I am your mother, I'm your auntie, I'm your teacher, I'm your professor. See?
Well, amen. Miss Maya Angelou. Angelou, some people say her name. Um, but what do y'all think? Is this big brouhaha about Maya Angelou, Miss Maya Angelou, telling this young girl who was a teenager that she should address her by Miss and not just by her first name? There are a lot of people on the internet that are kind of upset, saying that Maya Angelou was out of line, and that she was abrupt and too harsh with the girl. What do y'all think? Is it a generational gap? Um, the young girl looked innocent enough. This is when Maya Angelou, they say when she was 62. She died like 5 years ago at 86, I believe. So she would have been about 90 now. Um, So back then, when she was 62, if she was 90 today, that would be basically what, 28 years ago. So this was a good while ago. Um, and in those days, there should have still been some type of decorum and respect for older people. But do you guys think that's an outdated concept? Do you think it's much to do about nothing? People are just making a fuss over nothing. The kids nowadays, I do recognize that they're a little more sensitive when older people come down on them, and they're really quick to, like, go off or have something really quirky to say. I have several thoughts. I see both sides of it. I really do. When I first heard it, I was like, well, amen. Goddamn it, right. Because I'm way older than this girl. Way older. Being a Generation Xer. And I wouldn't even have addressed um, Maya Angelou to her face as Maya. Like, me and her on the same level. Like, get the fuck out of here. At the very most of the envelope that I would have tried to push is maybe Miss Maya. Um, like, I got a question for you, Miss Maya. That's how I do a lot of people that are elderly and older than me. I'll say Miss so and so, even if I use the first name, but I'll put Mister or Mrs. on the front of it, Mister, Mrs. or Miss. I think that's a appropriate way. And I compare it to somebody that's super old, like Queen Elizabeth. Nobody's gonna step to her and say, "Yo, Elizabeth, I got a question for you," or "This question is for Elizabeth," and they're 14 years old. That would have been blasphemy. And then the naysayer would say, "Well, Maya Angelou is not on the level of a Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth is a queen." Um, and that's the irony of it, because if you're thinking of a black woman, she should be, especially when we're talking about an elderly black woman, she should be addressed and thought of, you would think, as a queen. Especially when we're talking like 30 years ago. Man, we ain't talking about 2019, but 30 years ago, the elderly couldn't get no respect on their name. Put some respect on it. They couldn't get no respect on their name. So, and I think a lot of the youngsters these days feel like adults don't deserve respect, or people that's older than them. Maybe it's because they feel like older people, it could be a lot of reasons. Maybe they were went through some shit with older people when they were growing up. A lot of youngsters don't feel like they were protected when they were young. A lot of youngsters feel like older people are always trying to act like them and come down to their level. So why should I put all of this respect on the name of somebody older? And I get all of that, and in some cases that is true. We've seen ridiculous cases like the mother who was, dressing down her daughter and yelling at her, and just reading her, talking about you are doing things with my man. We already know the low state of a lot of black women, but this doesn't account for all black women, and most notably a notable author and poet on Maya Angelou's level, who was decades older than this child. She's been through a lot of things. She wasn't that person that seemed like a respecter of abusers. Um, Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I did read the book. I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings, and I do know that there was a scenario in there that she wrote about where she was raped, and she told someone about it, and the men in her family took action. And it caused her so much trauma because these guys, not only the rape itself, but also the guys that took action against the individual that did it, he ended up getting killed. So she went through some trauma and was mute for a long time behind that before she could even speak again. So I know she's not any coddler for abusers, because that energy could lend itself to a lot of lack of respect that youngsters have. Look at all the ancient mamas that are supporting monsters like R. Kelly. So I get it why kids might not have as much respect for their elders. But again, I see Maya Angelou among one of the greats. Um, and she's always pretty much carried herself with grace and dignity. Um, I did see some younger pictures of her, and she was quite a beautiful woman. And I know beauty within itself, physically, doesn't make you all that wonderful, but just what she's been through through her life. She's a great orator, or was a great orator before she died, a great writer, a great poet, and she can just bring feelings to paper. I mean, she was a magician with that pen. When I was reading her book, I remember actually tearing up, on a lot of parts, because she spoke to the insecurity she felt as a young teenager and girl, and how she didn't feel validated and felt unwanted. And that's how she conceived her first son, just, you know, wanting validation from any random male. And she spoke to a lot of pain that a lot of girls, even this day and age, feel. So again, a woman of her age, like, where is the respect? How do we differentiate the birds out here? And there are some young birds and some old birds. Don't even get it twisted. There's young and old birds alike. But how can we put more respect on the name of the older women that were not birds? They were respectable, graceful, honorable, in a lot of respects, women. So just gonna play that one more time. Let's see what you guys think.
Oh, thank you. And first, I'm Miss Angela. Yes, ma'am. I'm not Maya. I'm 62 years old. I have lived so long and tried so hard that a young woman like you, or any other, you have no license to come up to me and call me by my first name. That's first. That's first. Also, because at the same time, I am your mother, I'm your auntie, I'm your teacher, I'm your professor. See?
So yeah, there you have it. What do y'all think? Is this an outdated concept? Or was Miss Maya Angelou correct? Miss Maya, in being a little perturbed and aggravated and irritated I don't think she was like mad, like infuriated, but she was perturbed and irritated by the little girl calling her that. Um, and I can damn well tell you, if I was 60 or 70 or 80 or 90, I don't want no damn teenager calling me by my first name either. It's Miss Danny. If I allow you to call me by my first name or nickname, you better put a Miss on the front of that, or Mrs., because I am, married. So it's whatever. But and I will give her credit. She did apologize later, and I don't know what show is this. It's all over the internet, but it looks like it's Sally Jessy Raphael. She was a talk show host back in what, I can't even remember. Was it the early 90s? Um, Back in the early Oprah days. But yeah, that looks like Sally Jessy Raphael. Um, but she did apologize.
That let me say to Kim, I apologize for being so short. I apologize. I'm not usually so short. It just caught me off guard. I saw you about 14. I thought, oh, well, but I apologize.
So yeah. And that was another great thing. She demonstrated maturity to be able to at least apologize to the young girl. Because I do know that some older people, they'll flip out on you and just go off on you because they're having a bad day and they don't have the humility to apologize because they think they just so big and bad and above and beyond, and a lady on her level to be able to meet that little girl where she is and say, I still didn't like how you came at me, but at the same time, um, I apologize for being so short with you, because it can hurt your feelings, and it can it's a thin line, because you want the kids and people that are behind you and that are younger than you to respect you and put respect on your name, but at the same time, and you demand it, which you should. If you've been holding it down like you're supposed to, you should demand all the respect that you deserve. But at the same time, you don't want to break hearts and break spirits and just, make a kid cower away. So I am glad to see this young girl smiling at the end of the video, like, okay, I get it. I get it. I'm just surprised back in whatever this was, the early 90s, 80s, whatever. And a young girl had the nerve to actually call her that. Because I know 20 years prior to that, let's say like the 60s or the 50s, I don't think many young people would have been bold enough to call an adult, especially one that's on their grandmother level. She's not even older than her like a mom. She's older than her like a grandma or great grandma. So, I know they wouldn't have been on that shit like in the 50s or 60s. So each generation, it gets progressively, the lines of communication are becoming more and more distant. And I don't think we should, as older people, break down the spirit of younger people. We absolutely should not. Because what's that going to do if you break them down so bad that they don't have um, any courage and any they don't have any spirit of self-importance or validation about themselves. So it's up to the elders to instill validation and self-love into children, but at the same time demand your respect. um but at the same time, we should not lose focus of what's important, and elders are important when they're doing the right thing. And I would say that generations past, we lacked in that. That's why we have so much disrespectful entertainment that's out here, because we didn't have several Maya Angelos laying it down and laying down the law. Like, no ma'am, absolutely no ma'am. So, if more adults would take that stand, like I was saying, if more older people would take that stand, like a C. Dolores Tucker, like a Miss Maya Angelou, and should I say Miss Dolores Tucker? I mean, no disrespect. Um, and when and greats like that line kids up where they should be, then maybe it wouldn't have been so bad as it is now. Because as it is now, the community is not only cannibalizing the older people, they're cannibalizing the kids and the women their own age. So it's like to a point of no return. And when you don't respect your elders, it makes the community look despicable. Like nobody else feels like they have to respect you. Like, you motherfuckers cussing out your grandmas and shit. What the fuck we need to respect you for? Y'all some disgusting asses. You know, so you have to look at it on many different levels. Respect must go both ways. But I absolutely do not believe Maya Angelou was incorrect in her position here. So y'all tell me what y'all think. This is going around the internet. I believe Maya Angelou is she's about to be 90 if she was still living. Her birthday's coming up on April 4th. Beautiful, beautiful woman in her day, in her heyday, even though she didn't think so. But I love to hear your opinions, and I'm gonna end it here. Peace out.